Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us on the Seismic Sisters show. I am Polina Smith, and I am so grateful and honored to be speaking to Dhaya Lakshminarayanan today. Dhaya is the 2016 winner of the Liz Carpenter Political Humor Award. She was named as one of 20 women artists breaking the boundaries by KQED. She travels all over the world sharing her incredible stand-up and storytelling, and she's frequently featured on NPR's Snap Judgment and is the host of San Francisco's monthly Story Slam. What did your stand-up life look like before the pandemic hit?
The last show I did in March, a friend of mine called me and was like, Dhaya, we need you. And I said, why do you need me? He said, I'm doing this Irish comedy show, and I don't know what happened. Either the comics couldn't get out of Europe in time or their flights were delayed or something. And he said, I need you to fill in. And I was like, I am not Irish at all. At all. Like
0%.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for acknowledging that my parents are Indian. They're from India. They're born there. I don't know how I would fit. And he's like, we will make it happen. The Irish consulate will be there. Just please show up. And I said, okay. And the first joke I did was about the Irish prime minister, who is of South Asian origin, and he's queer, which is awesome because I love that he represents Ireland. And so I made a joke that I said, your prime minister has now made it part of your cultural law that there has to be a brown person on every show. So it broke the tension, and then I made fun of the British a lot because Indians and Irish people have that in common. And then I just sort of started talking about, things that are universal but are specific to me. The show went really well. And then things started getting canceled. Big events started writing to me and saying, I'm so sorry. This is a global gathering. We can't have it. Big shows that I had been planning on for months. It was all the right call, obviously. But as an artist, it started to feel really heavy. Like, if I can't travel and if I can't be in front of people, who am I as an artist? Who am I as a performer? Earlier today, I was on my Zoom workout, and I dragged myself to my Zoom workout because on this Zoom workout, there's queer folks, there's trans folks, there's people of color, and we just sort of work out together and try to make sure we're moving our bodies because we got to be able to run. I can make you laugh for 5 seconds of the absurdity of this situation. I'm contributing in some small way.
It's so beautiful, Dhaya, because thinking about, even though we can't necessarily see each other in person, or we have to do it at a distance, that you're still finding such ways to connect with your community, and that you all are serving a part in deeply nourishing one another so you can keep the work going.
It's hard because there's multiple public health crises going on. There's COVID. There is disproportionate killing and brutality of people of color, especially Black people, especially Black men. There's also this public health crisis of loneliness, depression, anxiety. There's now something called shelter-in-place psychosis, where people who normally maybe exhibited low-grade symptoms are having real mental health challenges. And so the only way that we know how is to use this technology and to use Zoom and to use Hangouts and to, get on the phone, play music from our windows and, yell down at the street at people and wave at people. So we have to, if you have the privilege of having Ethernet cable, if you have the privilege of being able-bodied and in reasonably good mental health, then really use that. I mean, I think it was de Tocqueville who came and checked out America's democracy and said some good things about it. And the early folks who were inspired from Europe and France about American democracy, they really coined this term around noblesse oblige, which is kind of like, if you have the privilege, go out and do something with your privilege. Everyone has privilege in different ways, and some of my friends have very, very little privilege. We have to kind of use what we have and show up in different ways. And it's exciting for me to be like, we can do something. We can come together and support each other. And even if that's a phone call, even if that's a Zoom, even if it's showing up for exercise or doing a meditation with someone that I've been, I'm part, the Buddhist Peace Fellowship has this course called You Mad, and it's called Buddhism in Rageful Times. So it can be anything. It can be anything. Find a way to contribute and find a way to, if you can make people laugh, if you can make people feel, if you can make people food, whatever it is, find a way.
So I'm both curious, how do you navigate that realm? How has patriarchy, how has racism shown up for you pre-pandemic? And then what opportunities are available as we see these systems changing?
Let me start by, thinking about how I am hopeful about the future, because it seems like right now when me and many of my friends don't trust the system, and the system could be the judicial system, the system could be the political system, the system could be the financial institutions that are supposed to provide for us right now. Trust in institutions is really, really low. For me, the political is the personal. For me, my mentors are people of color, Black folks, Indigenous people, Latinx people. So for me, this feels very, very personal. It feels very hard to get through this time. But here's what I do have faith in. Even in the midst of this pandemic, the folks who have showed up for me are folks from marginalized communities. I try to step up to be an ally, which is not just kind of a badge you receive. It's a continuous process of being an ally and then stepping back, learning more, apologizing when you're wrong. So as someone on that allyship journey, I have really become friends with a lot of folks in the HIV positive community. I am HIV negative, and there's ways for me to show up as an ally. And there's people in my life I've lost to HIV, people who are HIV positive who I love. And so these folks, this community invited me to come work out with them sometimes. And I'm like, can I show up as a straight girl, as a cis person? I'm not sure. And they're like, just come. And so I show up. And by the way, the music is amazing. It's like disco music. It's like powerful women. It's great. And so I've just been exercising with this community sometimes, and they make fun of me for being 5 minutes late, and I'm like, okay, I'll be there, and I had an audition that I needed to really step it up for, and I have to audition now from home with my lighting, my microphone, my camera, and folks in my life, in particular Black folks, have been like, what do you need? Do you need a different mic? Can I help you with audio? Can I help you run through your lines? So what I have found hope in and faith in is individuals who already have had so much taken in terms of being marginalized communities, and find a way to continually give. My parents are immigrants. My parents grew up very poor. And in my dad's community, there were people who were hungry. And at a time, my dad is one of 12 kids, and 5 of them died from infant mortality diseases, and they were very poor. My grandfather didn't really attend a college. My grandmother, I think she maybe finished high school, not sure. And they would have food for people who were hungry, because it was not just a part of their spiritual practice, it was a part of, we cannot let people in our community starve. So many folks of color, many marginalized folks, we can't let people starve in terms of just basic food, but affection, community, hope, getting opportunities. South Asian folks have reached out to me. There's lots of movements around South Asians for Black lives. So I have hope in individual, and I have hope in good human beings, and I have hope in generosity and kindness, and I hope to have hope in institutions and in the system and America. Right now it's hard to feel that, but I am on a journey.
Growing up, my dad was very interesting. He was like, use your imagination, because he's a scientist. He's like, use your imagination, which just meant he didn't want to buy us any toys. So I had this janky ass Barbie and this empty cardboard box. And my dad's like, use your imagination. It's like a Barbie dream house, No, not Barbie dream. It's sad. Barbie is homeless. She's lost her way of life. She had to file for bankruptcy.
I would like for there to be, a couple of things that happen. One, I would like the election to be fair. I would like for, voter suppression not to be something that we have to hear about and think about constantly. I would like voting to be safe for all people, all Americans. So just safety and accountability in the process. I would like also for, in this time when there's a vacuum of leadership, there are a lot of creatives who have been able to kind of make their career happen and become wealthy through being a creative. And I admire those people. I would like those folks to step up and stand up and say, really like do something with your platform. I mean, donate money, but also do something with your platform. You can't just be an innocent bystander. There's no innocence in that. So now is our time to speak up. So even if it's not the political thing to do for your career, even if it's not something that your legal team says you can't say that, or you might lose your job, or you can't, do this, like now is the time to not worry about those short-term things, to really take that risk. If you are the CEO of Twitter or Facebook, now is the time to take action. So it's no longer okay to say, well, I'm a corporation, I can't, or I'm a big star, I can't, or I have a role to play as a neutral person. We're beyond that. So when people start moving away from neutrality, and even comedians who are like, I never used to discuss politics, I'm kind of a goofy comedian, I kind of talk about the weather, I kind of, now's the time to really be like, we can't just have jokes about Spirit Airlines. Now is the time to talk about our wounded spirit. Make some jokes about that. Get out on the streets. And if you can't joke, it's fine. Use that time you would have written jokes or perform at shows to be out on the street. Do something. We as storytellers, we have the opportunity to tell a story, because if we don't tell the story, the quote other side or the other narrative is going to. So for example, I don't want to hear any more stories about a counterfeit $20 bill. I don't care. I don't care if there was a crime. I don't care what the crime was. I don't care if counterfeit is against the law. I'm not thinking about that. The story that I want to hear is about a man's humanity, about his family, about how his last words were calling out for his mother. And that is the story that I want to hear. We as storytellers have the ability to reframe right now and to talk about what really matters. So the story that I want to hear is about people who are connecting, and that it's not about isolated incidents or anecdotal stories, or it's really capturing this narrative and be like, we get to tell the story now from our perspective.
In this time that we're living in, where more things are online and virtual, is there more chance to amplify the stories that often go unheard?
There's something about starting our professional conversations in a vulnerable way to say, yeah, we got to talk about this work meeting, but let's talk about what's real. And so even if it's not consumption of media or stories or articles, we have the ability to kind of connect in this real way. Even if you're like, I need to get you this memo for work. Like, start by checking in. Be like, how are your kids? How is it going for you? What's going on in your neighborhood? What's a cause that you like? So I have a friend who works in education, and he works with special needs students. He's overwhelmed. You can't teach certain special needs students over Zoom. It's not possible. So what I did for him was I compiled a list of things that he could do, being a really busy educator, because I have the time to do that. So show up in different ways for people, and don't expect the same level of commitment from everyone, because they're trying to fight other battles. But do what you can, and reach out to people. And I have a friend who's a white woman who is doing a lot of anti-racist work, and she asked me to proofread this article she wrote, and the audience would be traditionally white women. And I'm like, I am happy to, because I have the privilege of being a tiny South Asian woman, and I don't have the same relationship with the police. My father has been pulled over and has had issues with law enforcement because he's dark skinned. But then when he opens his mouth and they hear he's an immigrant, he's, quote, less threatening. And so South Asians have a lot of privilege in this area. So I was like, I will help you, so you don't have to ask folks in your community who are really struggling and triggered right now. Let me help you. And then she pushed that article out, and lots of people responded. Some people responded with, but what about pets? We got to honor our dogs. And then people went in on that person. So it started a dialogue, and it really kind of brought things to the surface. And I couldn't have those conversations. So supporting, even if you're supporting white folks who are speaking to their community, white women who are speaking to their community, that's important work that we can do.
I'm so grateful to be having this conversation, because it's been so on my mind and feeling so reinforced by everything that you share, that like we cannot go to sleep.
No.
And for those of us that have the privilege to, like, we just cannot, and it is important to be reminded of that. So
thank you so much for doing this work, even as it is difficult today and this week. And thank you for supporting me and amplifying artists. I am going to try my very best to figure out what the right thing is right now, and how to use my voice for good, and be mindful that my comedic voice and my storytelling voice could be used as a form of distraction. It could be used as a form of support. It can be used as a form of release. So I am navigating that also, how to best show up.
I love it. An ongoing inquiry, like you said, with allyship.
I would love to hear from people who have ideas about how storytellers and comedians can collaborate right now, because we need to collaborate to get through this. And if there's ways that I can collaborate to support this time, I'm open to being more creative and trying to find more solutions, because this is an opportunity to be like, what talents do we have and how can we use them? So I'm open to invitations around collaboration.
I love it so much, Dhaya. Anyone would be so blessed to collaborate with you. So may the perfect collaborations come your way. All right, Dhaya, thank you so much.
Okay, take care.
Stay safe and well.